Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 316. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with pucksandpitchforks.com editor-in-chief Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network, coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios inside the bunker. In an undisclosed location, both North and South Jersey, on this wonderful, muggy, little rainy evening here in New Jersey. But I'm going to tell you something, all you listeners out there. We got a great guest tonight coming up shortly. Would you like to do the big reveal, Nick?
Yeah, we got Julie Stewart-Binks, currently at BetRivers. A lot of people on this podcast probably see her more in SNY. She does some hockey in SNY, or not hockey. She does a bunch of different sports in SNY. She does some stuff for the NHL Network. She's kind of all around, but her main gig right now is with BetRivers. But she's been doing hockey for a long time, and we've had her on the podcast before. She's one of our favorite guests. We're really excited to bring her perspective. I mean, listen, I feel like the fan base is in such a weird place today. I think today specifically, the fan base is in such an odd place, right? Because we got that Luke Hughes report on, was that yesterday or Monday?
I think it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Pierre LeBrun, and I was reading it verbatim, word for word, and I take things literally.
There was a lot of. It seemed like he wanted you to read that tweet that way, because for those who didn't see it, essentially he said Luke Hughes' camp and the Devils had come back together on Monday, and it sounds like term is done. They're going for 8 years. That's the route forward, which is great, fantastic. It sounds like there's a gap in the money. And, man, the reaction to that is a lot of people are just up in arms and trying to understand why. How is there it sounds like there's a pretty wide gap, right, Sam? Am I interpreting that correctly?
What I interpreted was, it's basically pretty blunt about it. The AAV, it's long-term. Long-term could be subjective, though. I caution Devils fans, it doesn't automatically mean 8 years or 7 years. It could be that 5-year rumor.
There's no way that long term means 5. I don't think so. I'm gonna veto that.
I'm just explaining the situation. Yeah,
because I took it. I did the same thing as you, but I'm taking it to where, if 5 years have been discussed and we're all upset about it, I can't see it being any shorter than 7 years when Pierre LeBrun is saying long term. I think that's where it is. So we're upset with that still happening, and Luke Hughes doesn't have a deal. But we're also very happy because the Devils put their starting lineup out last night against, kind of a mixed bag of Islanders. I would say it's mostly non-roster guys, but like Romanoff was out there. There was a couple guys, and the Devils did exactly what you wanted them to do and dominated. There was a couple like soft goals that went in. They actually scored. The Islanders scored on their first shot of the game, but it was the Devils dominated from start to finish. Every player looked great, including Ethan Edwards, who we'll get to. I want to get to that discourse after we speak to Julie, but I believe Julie's on, right? Is Julie with us?
Absolutely, she's on.
Why don't you bring her on? Let's do the formal introduction. We're really excited to have Julie Stewart-Binks of BetRivers, SNY, NHL Network, and a myriad of other places. You probably know her on X at JSP_TV. Julie, welcome back to the podcast.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on and more so figuring out how to introduce me with all of those various different titles. I have no idea how to tell people what I do these days because it's just like I don't even know. I'm just listing off networks at this point because I seem to have like my finger in every different pie doing hockey, which is great. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do that too. So yes, it's been a lot. It's been exciting. And as you mentioned, I've been doing stuff with the NHL and I have a podcast with Nate Thompson, who did not play for the Devils, which is like one of the teams he didn't play for. But it has been fun just going through basically every team he played for and finding out where the bodies are buried. So that's the good stuff.
I know Lou Lamoriello was famously hiding the bodies pretty well, so he might not even known where the bodies were buried if he played here. But that's listen,
Yeah.
it's a great podcast. I've definitely checked it out. But I have to ask. Well, first of all, I think you should do what we're doing, which is just call yourself hosts extraordinaire. We're actually doing a podcast at a wedding later this year. So maybe you just start adding hosting duties to other
Wait,
things.
podcasts at a wedding?
Yeah, we're doing a podcast. We're doing there's a wedding that Sam and I are invited to that is on a Devils game day, and this groom and bride have graciously allowed us to do the podcast at
Cocktail
the wedding.
hour. Cocktail
Cocktail
hour.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same thing.
And
So
Is it going to
I-
be like booming throughout the whole wedding cocktail hour, like a live
yeah,
podcast
everybody's gonna
vibe?
get a little Devils vibe.
I'll tell you
Whoever
how
gets
it's going to work. We're going to be in Chicago, and it's going to be simulcast at American Whiskey because it's a Devils home
Oh.
game. So we're going to be on the 10-foot TV at American Whiskey. They have a video wall now. So we're taking advantage of all the new tech. And so we're going to have hosts at American Whiskey, and we're going to be at Cocktail Hour on the big TV there. It's going to be spectacular, actually. It's going to be fun.
Well, that's pretty great. I mean, you have good friends who are allowing you to do a podcast at their wedding. That's not, I thought what you meant was like you were going to do a podcast about the wedding, almost like a live show. Like you're going to have like guests on from the wedding, which
honestly, that might
might
be a better idea. Might want to
no,
just
there
keep the podcast going.
just see who's invited. Like see if there's any, good Devils guests. You could just grab them from the cocktail hour and have them on. So I'm a bit of like I like to noodle on things that I hear and improvise on the fly. It's kind of one of my strengths, I would say. Maybe instead of host, I just say improviser. And so I think that'd be a great idea. But yeah, just like what you guys do, you kind of just go with the flow, do whatever you can. I've emceed weddings before, so I always like to work in some
Oh,
hockey references there. Don't always
amazing.
land, but you have to you have to work in hockey
You try.
references.
Are these Canadian weddings? So I think you have a better opportunity up there.
Yeah, yeah. My uncle worked in a Leafs, like he forced a Leafs like joke in my cousin's wedding this summer, and it was it was sad, but it always lands, right? Like a bad Leafs joke always lands.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Uh, so I do want to get into landing, and I do need to ask, like, what is your? We were just talking about Luke Hughes. Where does this land? Like, why are we? First, let me ask you this: why do you think we're here? It's almost October 1st, and Luke Hughes doesn't have a contract. Why are we here?
This is all just obviously a negotiation process. So I just strip it down to one side wants one thing, one side wants the other. And as we have seen with Pierre LeBrun's tweet, like it's amicable, which I like to hear, but they're not very close, which is not good because as we know, Tom Fitzgerald said that this was like the biggest thing in the offseason, and the offseason is over, and now we're into the preseason, and things are there's a lot of different things that are going on that are making it a little bit more worrisome, but I think that this works all in Luke Hughes' favor. I do not see a situation where this contract does not happen. All it is now is just a numbers deal, and it's a numbers game, and it is honestly the best and biggest agent in all of hockey, Pat Brisson, going to get the number that he wants for his client. And I heard you guys talking about term. I imagine term would have been just going off of seeing other deals, but not knowing inside the Hughes family and what they've talked about and how they've even interpreted these different negotiations. I would have thought it would be 8 years. I would think it would be 8 years, but I also don't know if like they have all talked together as well. Like if this is maybe part of something bigger. So that's like where my brain also goes, where it's like the red pill, blue pill situation, where it's like we take one route, this is going to get done. It's going to be easier than we think it is. It's just really about money at the end of the day. If we've learned anything in the last couple weeks, everything is about the bottom line. But then I see another situation where we've heard the Hughes brothers talk about wanting to play with each other and their contracts kind of being in different situations. And like the longer this goes on, does this mean it's better for Quinn Hughes and the Canucks like with reuniting with getting Luke Hughes together? And then you can just go into so many different situations. The biggest one that I think is like a showing of the cards or sort of like a tactical play is I understand that someone has to fill Luke Hughes' position when he's not on the ice. And the fact that Sheldon Keefe spoke so glowingly about Ethan Edwards in after the second preseason game and sort of like really saying like he is taking his spot. Like that is actually what's happening, as we know, because that just has to happen. But it's also a bit of a mind game because if you are Luke Hughes, you are sitting there and you are like Luke is probably losing his mind. I imagine he wants to play. This is between like this is just agent stuff. This is lawyers on agents, and it has like the guy just probably wants to get on the ice is what I imagine. So hearing Sheldon Keefe, his coach, say like basically, well, this guy's, his friend too. Obviously, they know each other really well.
Yeah,
He's one of the best skaters on the ice and he's pretty good. And now, wow, this guy's this flashy new toy. Like, wow, he's pretty good. And kind of like Luke Hughes, you start to see, like any job, if you take, we always in America think like if we take a day off work, we're going to be replaced instantly, right? Like, which is sometimes true, but then also like, not, we shouldn't, we should be able to like have a sick day and not think like, oh my God, am I not going to have my job tomorrow? But like, that's that feeling if someone comes in
sure.
and does like a really good job in your place. So that's the little extra part that I was thinking about today that might add into the fire of the negotiations. That's in the devil's favor, I think. But I do believe
Yeah.
this is Pat Brisson's world and we're just living in it.
So let me ask you this, because you kind of mentioned. First of all, let me talk about the Ethan Edwards thing, just because you mentioned it. I don't see it, but I'm not an NHL head coach. I've watched Ethan Edwards at Michigan. I watched him pretty closely. His career high in college, which was last year when he was a senior, is 21 points. If you remember, Luke Hughes had 48 points in a college season as a sophomore, which was 3 years ago. So, and Luke Hughes is known as one of the fastest skaters in the NHL. So I think there was a reason that
Yeah.
Sheldon Keefe said it the way he said it. I think there's some frustration maybe with Keefe that he's not here. And again, it's almost impacting him, and that's beyond his pay grade, right? He's not in the
Hmm.
negotiations. He's not. He would just be like, just get him here, if it was up to him. So I think that, like you said, Luke is probably a little powerless. Sheldon Keefe is powerless, and there's probably a lot of frustrations. So
Yeah.
I,
But
I
it's going to get
understand.
done. It's just a number, I think, imagine. Like, I think Sheldon's helping out.
Sure.
He's trying to help out right now, Tom Fitzgerald, by saying that, because then that almost gives them like a little bit more power of like, oh, just a little bit more cards in their deck. I don't know. I'm not even having any analogies. These aren't even analogies, but just like a little more juice. Like, oh, well, we've got a guy that's like really good, but he's not actually that he's nowhere comparable at all to
Yeah.
Luke Hughes. So
He's a fine
it's
prospect, but he's like
apples and oranges.
he's our fourth defensive prospect if you include Nemitz. He's behind Nemitz, Casey, and
Yeah.
Filiev. So it's like
It's kind of
I
actually
get it. He's
insane when
left-handed and he's
when you're
here.
using them in the same sentence and being like, yeah, well, he Ethan Edwards is, he's pretty good, and he's going to be coming in, and it's like that's insanity compared to Luke Hughes. So we have to then take a step back and think like, well, what are the motives behind saying these things, right? The actual motive is, well, is that is technically in like A plus B equals C. He is in that position. I understand that. But then there's a little bit more with those comments that add just like a little bit more to the fire where we know that they're going back and forth on negotiations. And I mean this could be going on I mean it's obviously going on right now. I've been like trying to have something new to bring to the podcast today with some of my sources who they are coming up dry right now. So I think everyone's just waiting.
Yeah. And that's the thing is I think that the strange thing is like, listen, I from what I've seen in the past with past negotiations, I've seen Brisson's people speak, and it seems like their side's not talking. I will say, like I like in outside of the Hughes brothers, I've seen him kind of or people on that side. That usually comes from an agent. I've seen some sprinklings from that side, and like that's the edge of a good agent is they use all of the tools in their tool chest. So I think the fact that all of the things coming out seem to be very devil centric tell me something about this negotiation. And one thing is I think the leverage is with Luke. Like
I do
I
too.
think he has the leverage, and I think it comes down to Quinn. It Jack too, kind of, but I think it comes down to Quinn. If Quinn wants to play with his brothers in his prime, he's the oldest one. He's what I think he's 25 or 26, right? So
Yeah.
if you sign Luke
I
Hughes to an 8-year deal, he's going to be 34 at the Quinn Hughes would be 34 at the end of that deal, which means he's coming out of his prime. So if he wants to play with his brothers in his prime, with all three of them, theoretically in his prime, he'd have to come to the Devils. But
yeah,
there's
so then he
power in
would
that, right?
right.
So
It's
I think they're
super
using it.
complicated. Yes, I agree. I think they are using that too, in the fact that like, um, first of all, they have this player that is you cannot there is not a universe where the Devils walk away from this table. So that's number one. We already know this. He's going to be on Devils unless barring something absolutely insane happening. They need him. And then you think, well, they do, as you so rightfully brought up, like have these extra chips to play, which are his brothers, and then being like, well, kind of trying to time them out, like, when Jack Hughes contract's coming up, when Quinn Hughes contract's coming up, if they all want to play together and we want to make this happen with the Devils, I think it's like one of the we want to make this contract like just sign here, with the Devils happen. Like they could present, Pat Brisson could present in theory a situation that would be not just Luke Hughes, but could be all three of them, right?
Yeah.
Like we could be talking about this three-headed monster about to come. Like, hey, this is going right now, but in at this time, like, maybe they get like, I don't know if they can have some kind of like gosh, that might be what is it,
Tampering.
tampering. Um
Yeah.
yeah, but it makes you then start to
There's
think like,
never
well, what
tampering.
are the
There's never been tampering in
possibilities?
the NHL. They come to these contracts at 1201 that are 8 years and $70 million. That's how long a 8-year negotiation takes. It's 1 minute after free
Yeah, you know
agency.
what? I'm
So
actually
that's what they,
surprised they didn't release it when like all the Kimmel stuff last night was
yeah,
going around, because
yeah,
that
right,
nobody would have noticed it because 26 million people were watching Jimmy Kimmel. So they'd be like, "Oh, okay." Like
yeah, right,
that's
yeah. But
what the NHL would do. Or
I'd say
like,
that's the
that's maybe it's already happened. No, I'm
yeah.
joking.
So you think it's directly connected, though? You think if Luke Hughes signs for 8 years, would you say that it's more likely than not Quinn is a devil?
I
He's
don't
willing to go out that far?
that's one I don't know. I'm not entirely certain on.
Okay.
I would think that that's a chip that they hold in the negotiations, because I'm just looking at this as like I'm feeling like I'm in the negotiation table. Like I have dealt so much with agents. I have a lot of agent friends. I've dealt with many lawyers. I understand. I'm in the process right now of like trying to buy an apartment. I understand like posturing, and I understand like, the back and forth and the games that you play. And like that's part of it. It just feels as though it's gone on so long that it is, to Devils fans at this point, a little bit concerning that they haven't found that number. And I think it's like it's a game of chicken. Like what is the number that you will come for? Like what is it and who's going to give? And I think it is the Devils that are going to have to give the money. It's a money situation. It's a value, right? Like how much are you valued? That's what money is in this system that we have. So I think that it's just going to be whoever is able to finesse that. And maybe there are other things involved, but we know that there's also that it's like the Kachucks, right? Like when
Yeah.
the Senators were talking with Brady, like Matthew Kachuk said, like we all know what's going on. And then also you think like, what is Jack Hughes thinking when he sees this going on with Luke?
Sure.
Like, does he think, do I want to be, do I want to go through this stuff?
Right.
Like, is this how they operate? So I think there's like just many layers to it, and you drive yourself crazy trying to think what ifs in the background. But I think either we're just going to be not surprised and it's just going to come out and be like, or like a Brock Faber type of deal, or a, whatever, something like that. Maybe not that high, but like around there. Like an 8-year deal, let's say, like maybe, I know it's the AAV they're worried about, so it's like maybe a little below, maybe 8.5, but or 8.3. I'm thinking, but if it's not that,
If
then
they
it's going to
do,
be something absolutely wild with like a Hughes a Hughes explosion.
sure.
So yeah,
Let me
that's it.
and listen. I don't I don't want you to have to be in people's pockets. But if I told you right now that 9 per year would get it done, would you just sign it if you're Tom Fitzgerald?
Without having like like the cap situation and everything pulled up,
They can figure that out. I've written a couple articles on that. You can figure out 9. So just with that caveat.
um, I don't know. If I'm Tom Fitzgerald, do I want to be? I gotta see. Now I'm thinking about Tom. Now I'm in Tom's head. I'm playing improv. I'm like, I wanna feel like I've won, right? So I want to
Hmm.
get it below 9 if I'm Tom,
Okay.
but that
I
might
would
not
sign
be.
for 9 personally. I
I
think
I would sign for 9 too. I think 9 would be great, but I just wonder if there's like when you're doing the negotiation, and I have to look through some of the other numbers and some of the things that maybe Tom has gone through with other deals, but like, sometimes there's a bit of like a pride element or like a negotiation element that's like, oh yeah, we got him below 9, like,
mhm,
in a sense of like a team, but how
yeah.
much of like your ego and pride is worth that versus the player that's going to help you win the Stanley Cup?
And I'll be honest, I think that's hurt Tom in the past with trades. I think he's wanted to win trades. I think it hurt him in the goalie trades from 2 years ago before they got when they because they didn't get Allen until the trade deadline and they needed a goalie in November. And I
Yeah.
think he was waiting to win a deal, and nobody was in a rush to trade goalies. I do think that this is probably. I like Tom Fitzgerald as a GM. I think that he's a good GM. I
He's
think
built a
he'd be a
great
great
team.
GM. He did. He'd be a great GM if he knew if he had a better timing on when it's okay to lose a deal. Like it's okay to lose a deal if it's the right player at the right time and you got an abundance of prospects. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter if you trade Shakir Mukhamadullin and become something when you still probably have the best crop of defensive prospects in the league. You know what I mean? Maybe
Agreed.
Montreal has better, but
And thinking about, you're not just negotiating for Luke Hughes, you're negotiating with the entire Hughes family, who's like
yeah.
now become NHL royalty. So like you want to be able to be on their good side. You don't want to bend and like, go above and beyond too much and make them think that you're going to just bow down and, spend everything, because you have to have some kind of like, they also want to see your backbone as well, I imagine. But you also don't want to piss them off. Like, because these guys are these players, I know that it's like, you play for the crest, but like these players are becoming, and the three of them together are it's a huge storyline that like really helps the NHL break through to other sports fans. And it's like, if that, like, keep don't mess this up with them, with him, and then with them, because it's like the tip of the iceberg. Luke Hughes and then the entire Hughes family. And so I just interviewed Pat Brisson at the player media tour, and
Nice.
I mean, I believe he will get the best that he can for Luke, but um he also has like a million clients. So
Yeah.
sometimes I think like we, and me too, like overestimate how much time is actually going into this,
Yeah.
They're not just
I
sitting there
actually
all day
interviewed.
in a room like
Wait, yeah, you can't just lock him in a room and be like, figure out the number. It's like, I
it's
actually
like
interviewed Drew
they're like, we've
Rosenhaus
got
once.
other stuff we've got to do too, like we've got to figure out we have Sidney Crosby calling about something, or like we got Patrick Kane on this line, like, it's like there's a
Yeah.
lot of people
Yeah.
to
No,
service when
it's
you're CAA.
right. And a lot of his guys are in the news. Crosby's been
Yeah.
in the news, and he kind of made a mention. I think I don't remember if it was
He
your
was in
interview
the
or
news. That's why we talked to him, because
was
he
is
also did some posturing right there with with contract stuff with the Penguins, as it goes to, I think he put pressure by, like, words are so, I mean, valuable. Sometimes we read too much into them, but sometimes they are exactly what they are, which is like he's saying, well, Sidney Crosby is like Tom Brady. I took that as, oh, he's going to go to a different team and win a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. I was like joking around with him about that, but he's like, no, in the sense that he deserves to win more because he is such a good player. And so that is saying, like, oh, do we want it to be a Pittsburgh? Yes, of course. That's where he is right now. So then that's putting pressure on Kyle Dubas to make like more moves to have a better team, or else, boom, Crosby's out of there. That's what, you read between the lines.
yeah, no, I saw those quotes from when he spoke to you and because I was intrigued and I was just like, and sometimes like I'll be honest, I didn't realize it was with y'all, but I was like, oh, that's super interesting. Like obviously we're going through our own
Hmm.
negotiations, but I was like Crosby, like candidly, my wife is from Pittsburgh, so like big Crosby fan, like so I've watched him, you know, rooting for my wife's happiness. So them not making the playoffs these past couple of years has just been, it's kind of sad. Like you
Yeah.
want to see Crosby in the playoffs, so I get it.
And that's I think what we do all want to see that, and that's what I think, like Pat, like I could tell his genuine sincerity when I said, oh, well, people are going to think with Tom Brady, he switched teams at the end and went somewhere else. He's like, I didn't. And again, sometimes, I mean, I've dealt with so many agents. I'm literally speaking from my own experience, agents and lawyers, that like it's really hard to know what is real and what isn't. And like I do believe Pat was like, I honestly didn't mean it in that way, in the Tampa Bay way. Like I don't even think I don't know how much NFL stuff like Pat Brisson is
Yeah.
consuming, other than he knows that Tom Brady is the GOAT. Like he might not have necessarily known like exactly what went down at the end of his career, or thought about it before he said those words. So in that sense, it was like I thought, okay. And he was like, I didn't know it was gonna blow up like this. And it felt real when he said that. I was like, okay, yikes. So you really got to be careful when you're talking about. But then I'm like, wait, are you being played by the agent? Because they are in negotiations, right? With these
Yeah.
other people. That's their job. It's to
Mhm.
negotiate and to win, like the deal. So I thought
In
first,
terms
I
of
was like,
like
oh, I
social
get it.
media,
And I was like,
yeah.
oh, Pat just was making a remark about, yeah. And then I'm like, wait a second, did you just get played, Julie? Like, I don't know. Like they're magicians over there that are able to work these deals out. That's why they're so
Yeah,
successful.
yeah. No, I listen. I don't blame you for second guessing because again, there uh there's always a grift, right? There's always
Yeah,
meaning behind everything. So, before I let you
always.
go, I would be remiss to not talk about the players on the team right now. Who
Yeah.
the
Oh,
Devils
wait,
is
there's
their
other
big
people on the team other than this Luke
this
Hughes
state
situation
negotiation
going on?
happening. Yeah, one of them is his brother. He's pretty good. Devils look really good yesterday. They were playing. I think you and me could have made the team last night for the Islanders. So like, I don't know if we should gas them up too much, but they did
Hey,
look
a win
really
is a
good.
win.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Where do you assess this team? Is this a playoff team, but that's kind of it, like they were last year? Do you think they could win the Metro? Do you think that this is, a move away from a Stanley Cup contender that they could do during the season? Like, where do you assess the Devils?
Honestly, I think they are extremely underrated, and I think they're going to be kind of a sneaky team because of how things have gone in the last couple years. They're built so well, like comparatively to other teams that need to do a lot more, like I'm not even finessing. I'd say finesse is reserved for the Devils. Like actual moves, actual real strategic things have to happen with the Rangers, who are coming off of an absolutely abysmal season with so much chaos and everything, and that room was just very difficult to be in, so you can imagine trying to play in it. And then Carolina's different too as well, and those jerseys like are really bad, so that's like a real bad start to the season for them. But people, people have figured them out. They know how, they're very similar, obviously, to the Devils. Man, they both of those teams together, like when they play each other, it's just like it's like when Tampa plays Toronto. I'm like, oh my God, my dyslexia is acting up. Like, who's who right now? But
Yeah.
I just think like you look at like the depth of scoring, the strength of scoring, like these forward lines, and you bring in Connor Brown, who's coming off of being in two Stanley Cup finals. People don't even really kind of like realize that, remember that. And that's a guy that, as you can, imagine when, and not to like, oh, name drop here right now, but like when Mark Messier and he was on our show, he said the hardest working guys and the best guys are the ones that have the fewest minutes, because they have to put in the best, the hardest amount of work. Like they have to show their A plus 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 game to get like one more second on the ice. And they have to do anything and everything the coach wants. And that's the kind of guy that I think Connor Brown can be for this team. And as we've seen, being kind of in the bottom six there, and being able to really relish that role. And I think that obviously defense depth there and goaltending, like you have everything. It's just always that question mark of health. That's like literally
Yeah.
it. It's like
Yeah.
if you can stay healthy, this team, I swear to God, I mean, I used to date a Rangers fan, and he saw my like betting, like I was betting on I bet on the Devils to win the cup, and he was just like, what?" I was like, "Yeah, this team is gonna win the cup." I obviously lost money on that. That was in the last couple years, but I truly do believe that this team has like because I think they're stealth in the sense that they're not getting as much attention on them because they haven't had the playoff success as of a recent, that like, where the eyeballs like Madison Square Garden gets on the Rangers and that whole memo and all that kind of stuff. And I just think that in a way they are going to secretly just be very, very good and end up being like, I think they could win the division.
Okay. I love that. I do. I have
I am
one more
also
quick
on
one.
a Devils podcast right now, so I
Yes,
know who my
I love
audience
this.
is.
This is
Yeah.
this is my favorite. Yeah, you got rid of the Rangers boyfriend, and you come to a Devils
Yeah, I mean, he
podcast.
was out the
Everything's
door. I
recovered.
was like, yeah.
Uh, very, very quickly, just because you brought up the Carolina jerseys, I have to ask, what are your thoughts about the jersey going the way of the dodo bird, going away? Did you like the jersey? Did you hate the jersey? There's no in between. You either like it or you hate it. What was your thoughts on jersey before I let you go?
I don't want to like give an opinion on it because I think that that's a very specific level of fan that likes
Okay.
to have. I will plead the fifth on that. I'm, as a human being, not Julie Stewart-Binks on this podcast, I'm fine with that going away. But
Mm.
if I was a fan of the team, like a super fan of the team, I don't, I'm gonna reserve that for them.
I just hope they.
Are you?
I
What do
hope
you
they just.
think?
series. I didn't like the jersey. I've written probably 25 articles saying how bad the jersey was just over the years. Just be like, every time it came back, every time it came up, The Athletic did. I think it was Mark Lazarus or somebody did an article in The Athletic where they ranked it as the best Devils jersey. I was like, we have the best crest in the
No,
league. Red and black is
I think
amazing, and this is the best jersey. So it was,
I
I'm
think
happy.
ironically it's a good jersey. I think jerseys that are not not my favorite can
Sure.
sometimes be actually very great because they're so bad, they're good. Like they're just so bad. You know,
Kind of like
that's
the
just how I
Six
feel.
jersey with the Islanders, or like the Statue of Liberty
Yes.
jersey with the Rangers. Like those are two that I'm
Ex-
like, they've kind of grown on me. But yeah, other than that, yeah. Well,
yes, those are exactly
Julie,
it.
take a moment to let everybody know, where you're gonna be next, where they can find your podcast, where they can find uh your
Whatever it
stuff.
is I do,
Yeah.
I seem to do to keep myself alive every day. Every day is a wheel of fortune, is what I say. It's a different day every day. I do podcasts for the NHL and iHeartRadio. You can find on all platforms called Energy Line with Nate and JSB. And then I also work with BetRivers, and we do podcasts on the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is a very interesting season coming up this year with a very unfortunate loss to the Ottawa Senators the other night, which I feel like I'm going to be saying a lot this year. It's called Toronto Sports Rush. And also work on SNY, as you mentioned, most likely covering the Rangers this season. We will see. I also host on there. And what else? What else? Do some PWHL at your rink with the New
Oh,
York
amazing.
Sirens. And gosh, I'm like thinking of all the 1099s I'm filing. So I'm like, oh yeah. Uh, the
I will
Olympics,
say,
the Olympics. I'll be doing the
oh,
Olympics in Milan this upcoming
that's
February, so I'm
amazing.
very excited about that.
That's awesome. Well, we'll definitely have you on either before or after that because we'll have to hear about that experience. I will say just one piece of trivia. There used to be a baseball team called the Toronto Maple Leafs that played alongside the Toronto Maple Leafs,
Yes.
the hockey team. Do you know what year they left?
Well, I think they still are back. I believe
Well,
they came back.
the baseball team, the
Yeah,
baseball team.
at
Uh,
Christie Pitts.
okay, so maybe they came back, but I know that they originally left in 1967 to go to Louisville, which is the last year the Maple Leafs won the cup. So I'm just
Okay,
saying.
well, clearly they haven't come back because then the cup would have come. So I'm
No, but
definitely
maybe you
wrong
get some
on.
juice with the Blue Jays. Maybe you do like a collab. I think that there's something here. I think you got to get
Well,
baseball to win.
this is Toronto is a baseball city right now,
Yeah.
my friend. It is, but I don't know how much longer that's I'm in Toronto right now. I'm here for my 20th high school reunion. That's one way to show
Ooh,
people how old you are. But yeah,
I got
I'm in
invited
my
to that.
childhood
I was
bedroom.
like, I don't remember any of you people. I guess mine's
Yeah.
next year, so I was
Well,
like, I don't think I'm
it's
gonna go.
it's it's like one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go back, and then you're like, oh, I'm just getting this really weird feeling like I definitely do not want to go at all. I don't want to go, don't want to go. I'm gonna go. And I'm pumped though. I was very fortunate to go to an awesome school in Toronto for 10
Okay.
years. Not high school for 10 years, but the school for 10 years.
I wasn't gonna judge you. I was thinking it though.
A little
All right, well,
Van Wilder
Julie, we kept
situation
this
going
for
on,
so much
yeah.
longer than I expected to. I apologize for that, but this was so much fun. I really appreciate it. We'll definitely have you on again soon. You made me a little bit more optimistic, so thank you for that. And everybody
It's gonna
subscribe
get
to her
done.
podcast.
A deal is gonna get done, guys.
We're good. It might happen. It might have
Mhm.
happened already. I haven't been on Twitter in
Yes.
like 30 minutes.
Thanks
Thanks,
so much for
Julie.
having me on. Take care.
Great job,
Oh, Sam,
Nick.
I like that transition.
You like that?
Oh my God, that was nice. Look at you do a crossfade.
Yeah. I did that by accident. I was like, oh, where's that button?
That was great. And listen, I really do thank Julie so much for spending the extra time with us. The conversation was just going really well, and I had to, I didn't want it to be all Luke Hughes, so I did want to kind of get a couple of those other questions at the end, but the it definitely, I will say this, coming out of that conversation, it's funny she brought up the part about she's buying an apartment because I noticed the difference. And tell me if you've bought a house, Sam. I've bought a house. We've both negotiated employment contracts pretty. I would say there was a back and forth. We've talked about this before.
I'm a brutal negotiator, by the way.
I am too. I want as much as I can get while having my employer still happy to have me around. So I noticed a difference in how people speak of the people who have clearly been in a negotiation of that level before. And again, we're not like you and me are not millionaires. We're not talking about that level, but comparatively, like when you're buying a house, like that's a life-altering experience. When you're negotiating a large contract, that's a life-altering experience. That's if you make a mistake in there, there's a lot of stakes involved. You could tell how some people speak about it, be like, well, Luke should just take what they're offering him. Or it's like, why is he being greedy? Or why is he being, it's like, no, it's not about that. It's about, like, you're setting up your entire life. And I think the people who have negotiated a house or have negotiated a large contract understand the nuances that come with those negotiations. And kind of, you don't take it like to heart, I guess. Like, what am I?
Personally.
You don't take it personally. Yeah. Like, it's not, you're not attacking me. You're doing what's best for your company. I'm doing what's best for my family. Or you're doing what's best to sell your house. I'm doing what's best to buy this house or sell this house. I've been on both sides. You could tell the people who have been on both sides, and you could tell the people who are kind of just like looking at this in the context of sports negotiations.
Yeah, I mean,
when crazy?
When I negotiate, I may be a different negotiator. I try to look for win-win situations to incentivize getting a deal done, knowing where the leverage is, and you negotiate position of strength. And if you don't have that position, that's where again, that's where this is where you draw it out. Where now it's a marathon. And I think that's where what's happening here is, don't forget, I mean, this is the first time since signing that entry-level contract that Luke Hughes is a free agent of some sort, Yeah. He's on the first, level of free agency in his career, or young career. So this is all new. At the same time, the Devils have a lot of leverage with the collective bargaining agreement. So, but the Hughes leverage is interesting, which I got out of the interview you just did with Julie, is you can have all three in their prime. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's unique. And because of that uniqueness, this negotiation does not surprise me that it's taking that long.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything to worry about. However, if Luke Hughes starts missing regular season games, we might have a problem here. I would give him maybe for the first 3 games. But at the same time, you don't want him to miss training camp, because that's how injuries happen when you come in cold. And you're in the middle of the regular season.
It's not an injury. It's surgery this last season.
Yeah.
Like, people don't talk about that a lot. Like, I don't think he's skated as much as he might have usually, just because, we were talking about, he was in a sling until, like, August? Maybe July, but he was in a sling for a while. Like, Jack got out of the sling way before Luke. I will say this, I don't want to talk about the Luke stuff too much longer, just because we did talk about it a lot. But it is the story, right? It's still the story. That tweet changed a lot of how we look at it. It's all about the money. Can I give you my prediction?
Sure.
I don't think you're going to like it, but I'm going to give you my prediction. I think they signed for 8. I think the number is $9.25 million per season.
Why would I not like that?
Oh, I don't know. It's a lot of money. But I think that's the number. Because that's the number you could get to with Kovacevic on LTIR. That's the number you can get to, if you either trade Mercer or, Palat, you can get all the way up to like 11.
I'm working on that, folks.
I see that. Thank you for that. I think the Devils are going to. I think that's the number. I think 9.25 is going to be the number. I think the Devils are sitting at, I think they started at Darlene, which is I think 11. And I think the Devils started at 7. And I think that the Devils are sticking around 7. And I think that, I would assume Brisson has come down to 10. But then he's like, I'm not coming down anymore. I'll come down to 10. And then he's waiting for the Devils to come up. I think Fitzgerald is sticking at 7. Maybe he's going 7.25, 7.5. But I think he's trying to keep it under Jake Sanderson. And I just don't see it. I just don't see it happening that way. I would be ecstatic if they signed the Brock Faber deal. I think Faber is just, it's either 8.5 or just a touch over 8.5. Luke Hughes is better than Brock Faber. I know that Brock Faber was ahead of him in the Calder Trophy voting that year. Luke Hughes is better than him. He just is. We've had a lot of interesting conversations. There's not a lot of defensemen. Even if his name is Luke Johnson, there's still not a lot of defensemen I would trade Luke Hughes for. I wouldn't trade him for Sanderson. But I'm not very high on Sanderson. I'm low. I'm probably as low as you can be on Sanderson.
From day one, you were.
I was. And I think that he's better. He's not a bust. He's not a top 20 defenseman in my mind. I just don't think he is. The Hudson thing, I just think it's just way too early to even assess Hudson. I definitely 100% wouldn't trade Luke Hughes for Lane Hudson. Not a chance. I think he had a really nice season, great offensively, but I think Luke Hughes could touch his offense now that he's understood the Sheldon Keefe defense. I also want to point out, that's where my number is. My number is 9.25. That's my prediction. 8 years, 9.25 per year. Do you have a prediction, or do you want to move on to the game real quick before we end this?
I hate to say it, but I have to agree with you on it, just based on the facts out there, coming from Pierre LeBrun and just reading between the lines. And a 9.25 number is not outrageous because Dougie Hamilton, again, signed it a few years ago. Mm-hmm. Inflation, folks. Different environment.
Only got 3 years left.
Yeah. So I mean, that was
up. You'd probably trade Dougie.
But what I'm saying is, it's not an outrageous number, big picture wise. The 9.25 that you just said.
Yeah, I do. But again, I kind of want to move to the game last night. I loved everything I saw. The Ethan Edwards thing is insane. I just think it's insane. I thought he had a good game. I also think he made some mistakes that we're just choosing to ignore. He got turned around on I can't remember if it was a goal or if it was a high danger chance, but he got turned around pretty badly in the defensive zone. I just think saying he's the best skater amongst the defensemen, I think Nemitz is a better skater than him. I'm trying to Edwards could be better than everybody else, but Hughes is one of the best skaters in the world. So it was a negotiation tactic, a good one, smart one, but I think it's a negotiation tactic. But everything else, Nemitz looked pretty good. And I know Keefe said really nice things about him in the post game, so I think that there's confidence back in Nemitz. Dadonov looked really good with Hughes and Pratt. That line was cooking. Mercer looked fantastic. Mercer was the guy who was like, okay, like this dude might be back. I don't know what happened last year, but I don't care. He might be the dude. I didn't like that they paired him with Nico and Meyer. I thought he made more sense with Hughes and Pratt, but if it works, it works. And I know people were mad that Meyer's on the second power play, but I don't think that this is the second power play of last year. I think what's going to happen is I think you're going to end up rolling 2 defensemen, and you're going to pull Plot off of that second power play, and that second power play is going to be either Luke Hughes, Simon Nemetz, Dadonov, Gritsik, and Meyer, which is a fantastic unit. Or it's going to be Hamilton and Nemetz, and then the 3 forwards. So this isn't like 10 steps down on the second unit. Like, that first unit is incredible with Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Dougie Hamilton, and then you got Dawson Mercer. But they want that guy who's going to replace Nason, who's going to clean up from underneath. And you got to remember, Nason's going to come back. I'm going to be honest with you. I think he's out longer than we think. And I said this about Kovacevic, and I was right. I think I would be surprised if we saw Nason in October. I don't think he's going to be out as long as Kovacevic, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's out till at least December 1st. I'm not diagnosing him. I would be surprised if we saw him in October, personally. I just think it sounds like the Devils have always been coy about injuries, but they're coy in a way where there's evidence. Like, I've seen this story before. I kind of know, like, what I'm picking up what you're putting down. I think he's going to miss a month. So I think you get a month to see if Dawson Mercer's the guy in the first power play, and that power play looks incredible. I wrote about it today. It looks better than last year, and last year, at times was like at 40%.
I would caution it is preseason, Nick. I don't want to damper.
But I'm talking about the style. I'm talking about the game plan for it. So what I think happened is Sheldon Keefe saw what happened in the playoffs, and that power play couldn't score, and he changed it. Him and Jeremy Colleton changed it completely, and I think they looked at it and they're like, "What wins the playoffs when you're a skilled team? What wins the playoffs is movement. You got to pull guys out of their position." And the Devils weren't doing that with their power play. They had a quarterback, whether it was Hughes or Hamilton, where they, and they would play catch, and they would hope that either they got a shot through traffic, or, Jesper Bratt or Nico Hischier just popped open, and it didn't work because nobody was getting open because Carolina played it so well. Now, pass. They moved the puck with passes instead of skating, and guys are reacting. They're like, oh, and there's usually 2 guys open. So the Devils have found a way to pull guys off each other. And again, they were playing a peewee team last night. I don't want to disparage the Islanders. It just, the Devils put out their peewee team on Sunday outside of the Gritsik line, basically. So this Devils team has a lot more going for it than a lot of people give it credit for it. Yeah, they didn't get the top 6 forward, but Damian Flores just wrote for Pucks and Pitchforks about how Evgeny Dadonov might be that guy. They might have gotten a nice diamond in the rough there. And if Mercer scores 25 goals, I'm going to be like, great, this is fantastic, exactly what I need. 25 goals for $4 million from a guy who could still play some defense too. I think it's great. But that's all I got, Sam. I'm ready for plugs unless you got some more.
Just one last thing on the power play. I caution everybody because we've seen this rodeo before. They would start off the season hot on the power play, and as soon as the season goes along in that first month and everybody's back on the same page, coming off the off season, then it starts to dip, I'm not saying you're wrong, Nick. I'm just saying.
That's like what it looks like. We've wanted them to pass, and they're passing. So that's kind of like where I'm going with that.
Okay.
Pass the puck, and that's all. They pass the puck so many times. Read my article on it. It's on pucksandpitchforks.com.
Oh no, I breezed through it. I'll read it again, but
yeah.
Go to
I think we got something here. Do I think that they're one of the best teams in the league? No. I think that they're a top 10 team, though. And a top 10 team is all you have to be in the conversation. And sometimes a top 10 team wins the cup.
Yeah.
So
I'm more on defense. I just want their PK to be number one. I want their PK to be number one. I mean, they did pretty.
Did they finish number one last year, or did they fall off?
I think they were in the top 3 last year on the PK.
Terrible in the playoffs, but
yeah.
That's where you got to figure out why were these units so bad in the playoffs? Because I think you could have taken Carolina to 7 if you scored some power play goals and you stopped them in the PK. That you could. I still think they would have lost the series, but I think you would have.
Well, I think a lot of the injuries, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but the Devils were gassed by the time they got to the playoffs. Yeah. Even though they had the playoff spot. What's that?
Dumoulin was playing like 30 minutes a game.
Yeah, it was a Band-Aid upon Band-Aid down the stretch. Even though the Devils had that last wild card spot secured, they were gassed. They were gassed because they went 3 months, 4 months with all these injuries, and then to lose your defense game 1, that's hard to recover from.
Oh, one last thing I wrote about this. It actually didn't. I thought it would get a little bit more play because I didn't see a lot of people talking about this, but I reacted. Did you see that Brendan Dillon got the Jack Eichel surgery? And that's why the rumors of him being out dissipated. He got the disc replacement. Is it artificial disc replacement surgery?
Yep. You want to know a little tidbit?
The what?
You want to know something about it?
What?
I know the guy, close friend of mine. He was one of the founders of that company that that disc. Yeah. Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I remember just to let you know, I remember back in 2009. I think they invented that disc probably like late 90s, early 2000s. And I remember
it takes a long time to get those past like FDA approvals and stuff.
Yeah, and I remember when they were going through the FDA, the clinical trials and all that kind of stuff, that they were finding the impact sports, it's actually pretty awesome. But that was in the infancy of that surgery.
I mean, Eichel's been great. He hasn't seen any impacts of it. So I think it's good news. I think it's a controversial surgery still, but I think it's good news that he got it because I think he might be better this year. You want my honest opinion, and this is where I think the Buffalo Sabres may have not had just what I know. I think a lot of it was the lawyers talking about the temper the expectations. But it is, you should be, listening to your doctor and do the right things. But it's above and beyond, above expectations. Some of the results and athletes have had it. No, I was excited when I saw it because I was like, "How is he playing? Why did this rumor come out? Was it just made up?" And then when you hear about the surgery, you're like, "No, he had a significant injury and it was a long-term thing and." There's just new technology now, and I don't want to say high expectations, but I think Brendan Dillon's going to be good. And again, if you want some of the details, Amanda Stein interviewed him, but we did an article over at pucksandpitchforks.com. Go check out that article at pucksandpitchforks.com. We have a lot of articles this week, Sam. It's been, and you're going to get even more because there's going to be at least 30 before October 1st. 30 articles over the next week.
That's a lot of reading.
It's a lot of reading. So, but that's we have certain people with certain thresholds they have to hit. So, 30 articles over the next 7 days. Everybody get on pucksandpitchforks.com right now. Start your reading.
Also, I got a big announcement next week. Not going to tell you what it is. Cliffhanger.
Sim, do you realize that when we talk next week, it'll be October?
I know. And I can't wait.
October 1st. Let's go. I'm here for it.
All right. Well, I want to thank all those tuning in. I see Ted chiming in, Jay Snow, Steve Engel, AJ Visco. Special thank you to Julie Stewart-Binks for coming on, dropping the podcast at midnight. Till next time, let's go Devils.